It's working on a calm default position. So this is from a couple years ago, or yeah, a couple of years ago, a year ago. I took Mustang Maddy's online class, and this is her very first behavior that you learn is very good. I took the class with Castor, my other Mustang, but I'm gonna do the same kind of things with Atlas here. So first, you just throw some food in the bucket, and then as soon as the horse raises their head, so it should come right up out of the bucket straight, you're gonna click, and then put the food back in the bucket. Um, so you're just starting to pair like the click with food for a horse that doesn't know what the click is yet, and then you'll start building that into calm default like behavior. So calm standing default behavior, I guess, is something like that is what it's called. So now when he comes up out of the bowl, eventually I can just feed him with my hand instead of in the bowl, but it's really smart to start out with feeding the horse in the bowl. I did obviously with both of them because they were too afraid to take food from my hand, but this is a great place to start. That was really nice. I really liked how softly he came with his head up out of the bowl. So that was really good. Same thing here, just have his head up and straight out of the bowl is all I'm doing, clicking and feeding. And then I'll do that a few times and then start hand feeding him. But this is a good place to start when you're teaching a horse clicker training. So, or a horse that doesn't know anything about clicker training, about the click, stuff like that. This is also a great first behavior because usually the first behaviors that a horse has, they're going to stick with those behaviors. And then this is called default behavior because this is what we want the horse to default to in case something scary would happen or in case the horse gets confused. So instead of going forward and offering you all these different behaviors, the horse is going to offer you standstill because that was the most reinforced behavior. That was the first behavior they've learned. So that's what they're going to offer you. So there now his head's up out of the bowl. So I'm going to click and then feed. So I'm just continually clicking and feeding for having his head up out of the bowl. Looks great. In the beginning, you're just going to be like rapid fire feeding. So click feed, click feed, click feed, click feed, because I really want this position to be rewarded. So head straight in front of him and relaxed is what I want. And then you'll start building duration. Then you'll say one, click feed, one, click feed, one, click feed, two, click, or not two, one, two, click feed, one, two, click feed. So that's how you start building that duration. It's really important to have a lot of food and a lot of reinforcement, especially in the beginning, to show the horse what behavior it is that you want. And also, what's happening here is I'm feeding in that correct position. So I'm not feeding when he's turning his head and doing all these other things. I can set him up again with the bowl, but I'm showing him that I want his head here and he's getting lots and lots of reinforcement for having his head there. And then you can increase the amount of time. So now I'm not feeding quite as long or quite as fast. So one, click, and then feed. And then you can take a break and throw food in the pan whenever you want to. But that's kind of how you get started. And that was a really interesting lesson for me. I wish I had known about that years ago when I first started clicker training with them. My horses were pretty good. Standing still was definitely not the first behavior I taught them because I was more in the mindset at the time of, oh, I need to halter you and we're going to do this and this and this. And so, you know, it was not just stand still. It was, can you touch the target? Can you lead? Can you do this? So, but I wish I would have done that. So, just head's nice and straight. I'm going to click and feed him. One, two, whoop, no. We're just gonna wait, and if he turns his head, you can reset. You can just throw food in the bucket, or you can wait and see if he'll just kind of turn his head back. If he does that pretty quickly, you can just click and reinforce for that head straight. So you have a second, click, feed. A second, click, feed. Perfect. So now I'm starting to build some duration with this behavior. And it looks like in the beginning, like, oh, I'm just throwing food in the bowl, I'm just feeding everything. You do a lot of feeding. That's definitely going to happen, especially in the beginning. It's a ton of feeding, tons and tons of feeding. That is fine. And then as you build duration, then it's less and less and less. So you're not going to be doing that forever, but yes, in the beginning, that's what's going to happen. So many people stray away from clicker training because they're like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to feed like this forever. No, not if you're doing it correctly. Like I'm already building duration in the behavior already. It's been a few minutes. So it needs to continue on like that. So you can do a behavior for a long period of time, or you can start chaining behaviors together and then reinforcing. So there's lots of different things you can do, but this is the beginning of it. So the beginning is not going to look like the end. Just like when you learn the ABCs, it's not going to look like the end when you're reading books. So then I'm going to end the lesson after a few minutes with a big jackpot in his bowl.